Hello, everyone. So I talked about this before back a few years ago, and it's important to bring it up. It is really important to bring it up in a way too, because there is still to this day institutions and I suppose areas. We get into the details, the whole fine details, what I'm talking about, of British titles. Take for example in county councils, the title is still used as Lord Mayor, but in Irish it's Cathaoirleach. Um, which is still still basically a lot of people call it Lord Mayor. Take for example in Dublin they call it the Lord Mayor of Dublin, and Lord Mayor obviously is a British term more than Cathaoirleach, which is an Irish term pretty much, um, which should be the used to be totally honest. But it goes back to colonisation and stuff like everybody's topic, but it goes back. Should these words still be used in modern Ireland in a free sovereign Irish republic? Well, backwards looking at your sovereignty, as Micheál Martin would say. But is it appropriate, I suppose, in the way, and we talked about this before, is it appropriate for it still be used in modern Ireland? Should not be Irish phrases and Irish words? The same with the Royal College of Surgeons. This is still in Ireland, the Royal College of Surgeons. And still, again, as you know, we're not on the Crown, the British monarchy. And same with the Law Society, it's called the King's Inn. And no monarch in Ireland, and they still call it the King's Inn. Beggars belief. But not even that. Where I am here, where I live in Buttersbridge in County Cavan, a lot of people say it's a weird name, I suppose, Buttersbridge, compared to other places in Cavan or start with Ballygym stuff. Or begin with B or Ballia, all begins with that kind of language, or kill, it's kill or this and kill and that. But it's called Butler's Bridge, and the reason why it's called is because it's Sir Stephen Butler. Now he was during the plantation of Ireland, particularly the plantation of Ulster. He's from Scotland. He came over for the plantation of Ulster. So he was a Scottish, I suppose, in English too, landlord who owned the majority of this part of Ireland, which I'm in, pretty much central Cavan. Owned a good bit of land, founded by Talbot too, back in the day on Avon Parish. But still, Buttersbridge is named after still Stephen Butler, the Butler family pretty much, but comes from Stephen Butler, obviously, Lord Stephen Butler. But I suppose that too, and that was brought up recently to me too, about the name of this village here, that it probably should be changed, and I don't know, I'm not that, go and look, and I looked back a few years ago at the history books of Lord Stephen Butler. He wasn't the worst landlord. He seemed to treat the native Irish not too badly. And I suppose again they were talking about we're talking about 400 or 500 years ago, something like that, during the plantation of Ireland, before even the famine and stuff like that. God knows, I can't even give you a date because it's that long ago. But even that too, because it is a British landlord, it is a British lord that the town is named after. And the same with other places are named after British areas. Take for example Queenstown used to be, now that's been changed obviously a long time ago. But it's still appropriate too to use the title of Lord Mayor of Dublin, take for example the King's College, the King's Inn, the Law Society, or the Royal College of Surgeons. I don't take, personally, the main thing I have issue is Lord Mayor and the Royal College of Surgeons and the King's Inn. I have an issue with them. Not so much the naming of this town. I don't really have an issue with it because it's a long time ago. But I do think it should have been changed when Ireland gained independence. When it gained its sovereignty, so-called sovereignty, of course. But I do think it should have been changed. And I do think it's a topic because there's many other parts of Irish society that it does do linger. British titles, I would call it. British names, like British signs of the past, pretty much I would call it too. But I don't think it's appropriate to be the Lord Mayor of Dublin to be called the Lord Mayor of Dublin. I don't think it should be. It should be in Irish, the same as Taoiseach and Taoiseach. Pretty much means chieftain. Taoiseach pretty much means chieftain, that's the chieftain. And then obviously the deputy Taoiseach, the deputy chieftain pretty much. Taoiseach, Taoiseach, sorry, excuse me, to get confused with it. But it's the same with many other things, like, not other countries usually call it Prime Minister and stuff like that. But it's good that we changed that, of course, when the time came. But I don't take the Lord Mayor of Dublin should be called the Lord Mayor of Dublin, it makes sense. I know it's not the biggest gripe we could argue if the cows come home about other things that are far more important. But I suppose it does raise a question about should these still be lingoing in this country, these kind of titles and stuff. And it's the same with this fellow Chio, because it was an interesting conversation, as I said, with the person. Because it never was ever brought up. That's what I'm saying. It was the first time I ever heard somebody mention it to me. About it was a British Lord, and it is true that there is a British Lord. You could call it the Scottish Lord too, but it is interesting, because again, this was the first time it was ever brought up, to me, or was ever said to my knowledge publicly, and it's an interesting thing to say, but I don't know, and I don't think the majority of people would be in favour. Now I'm not suggesting we change this. It's been Buddhist Bridge has been called for a long, long time, the last 300 years of maps or so. I don't suggest we change it, to be the answer, but considering again Stephen Butler wasn't the worst person, that's the what I'm going on, but definitely what I'm saying about the institutions of the British state, they used to have, say, influence in that, and obviously you could claim the plantation to was influenced by the British state. But yeah, I suppose it's a topic to discuss. It's a thing that should probably be discussed. But I do think the Royal College of Surgeons should lose the name of Kings, and the King's Inn too. Shouldn't be in a republic. It's something with a royal title. What about Northern Ireland? Go ahead, pretty much. But in the Southern Ireland, it should not be the case. In my opinion, I know some people disagree, but that's just my opinion. Anyway, let me know what you think. Subscribe for more and bye.